I think another reason why some of the attacks, at least from some of the Cuomo camps and, Trump and others like him, the reason those attacks came in the form of, Zohran's anti-Semitic is because they can't stand his working class politics. But they can't
They can't say that out
attack
loud.
that.
Yeah.
Right. But they can't say, oh, we don't want you to, rent freeze. We don't want you to this and that. And so instead they resorted to, well, let's attack him on Palestine, because the default in US politics, and certainly the default in New York politics, is that you can't speak about Palestine. It's taboo. You can speak about anything else, but not that. I think what they didn't realize, because they're so out of touch with their voter base, is that actually New Yorkers are seeing this genocide happen, and they're actually against the genocide, and they support Palestinian rights, and they see that there are hundreds of thousands of Jewish New Yorkers that also stand with Palestinians, and they understand that fighting for Palestinian rights is tied to fighting for their own rights, and all the polls have shown this. And so I think that was a big misstep on their end, and what we got was Zohran winning and really shattering the default of New York politics on this particular issue. I mean, on many issues, but certainly on this one, where the default has always been you stand by Israel at the expense of all Palestinian New Yorkers. And that's just no longer the case in New York.
Well, that actually, I'm going to show another clip, but I guess, I'll give everyone a chance to grab their Dramamine, because it's going to be of Jonathan Greenblatt of the ADL. But, you bring up something really important, Sumaya, which is that it's not acceptable to say, you can't, it's politically unpopular, right, to say, I oppose rent freezes. So what do? They focus on the Palestine stuff, or they call them a socialist, right? You want free stuff. You want, you're a communist. Or as someone on Newsmax literally said, this was hilarious. He said that Jews are, I'm paraphrasing, but he really said that Jews aren't realizing what a threat Zohran is because of the free stuff. This is a guy. Oh yeah, it was amazing. We'll cut this clip in later, Brad. Remind us when we're making a clip of this. Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, you really can't make it up. But Sumaya, given that you just made that link, and given that you co-edited a book about socialism in Palestine, what is that connection
between socialism and Palestine?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think at the heart of it, it's the argument is that when we're fighting for a world where workers have control over their labor, over how they're used, over their rights, and have all of these afforded to them, that doesn't just, that the separation between domestic and international begins to wither away. There's that famous quote from AOC years ago where she said, international foreign policy is domestic policy. And I think that one of the many arguments the book makes is that when we're talking about domestic issues, whether it's healthcare, education, immigrant rights, we have to understand it within the framework of what the U.S. is doing abroad, because it feeds into what is happening locally. And with Palestine, there's such a direct link, right, with the billions of dollars that go to Israel from the U.S. that could be spent elsewhere, with the shared weapons, the military technology that's used in the U.S.-Mexico border, that's also used across hundreds of checkpoints in the occupied West Bank, et cetera. So that was a big part of the book. And the other thing that I'll say about it, and I'll stop, is that it was also making the argument that socialism and just like working class politics and working class power has always existed in the Arab world through various movements over a century. And it's not a new link that we're creating by talking about it today, that it's actually always existed, and that it's really, really important to remember that, and to honor that, and to learn from that. So we learn from our mistakes as we're trying to build for the future we want.
By the way, we do have that clip that I mentioned about Jews and free stuff and Zohran. Brad, you have it?
Now it's more so like, chickens for KFC with this whole Mamdani thing, or like cows for McDonald's here. Look, I mean, I don't know why any person who would be a Jewish person, who would be an American person, someone who lived through 9/11, which I did in New York City, being born and raised here, would be ready to vote for someone who has such ties to extremists. And there's nothing wrong with like actual American Muslims, especially you have like Nation of Islam, who are like Black American Muslims, people like that. But this guy, Mamdani, there's so many extreme people that he's been aligned with. And for this to have happened in New York City just 24 years ago, and like this is where we are, like we were the city of like Giuliani and even like Bloomberg, and it's like, what the heck has happened? I mean, we only have a few more weeks to go. I mean, go Sliwa, go Cuomo, go anybody that's not this guy promising all this free stuff, because that's what's putting his whole coalition together. The promise of free stuff makes Jews forget that, like, he's an extremist.
Yeah, Kate.
The promise of free stuff makes Jews forget that he's an extremist. Yeah.
Wow. I just have one initial reaction I want to say.
Yeah.
Which is I just want to note, first of all, there were so many levels of bigotry that were going on in that clip.
Yeah.
I know the rabbis who were in that clip. They are incredible people, incredible powerhouse rabbis.
And just sorry, Beth, let me just explain, because it starts.
Yeah.
The clip starts midway where he's making this guy is making a joke. He's a Newsmax commentator. He's making a joke because there are rabbis, including a trans rabbi and women rabbis, who came out for Zohran, and so that was his joke. What chickens for KFC? That's
chickens for KFC.
Yeah, that was the reference.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and there was a wave of really horrific transphobia directed at the incredible Rabbi Abby Stein, who is in that, who is a friend and a wonderful person, and part of the movement for justice in the city, supported Zohran, has been part of the movement for Palestinian rights. And there was a really horrific wave of just vile transphobia directed at her, hatred toward the other women who were all together in that. And then, of course, the absurdly and very clearly anti-Semitic idea that Jews would be distracted by a shiny free thing. But I mean, the overall thing here is that I think that Zohran's opposition doesn't know what to do here, because what he has pulled together is a broad, diverse, and powerful coalition of New Yorkers. And what we are all doing is coming together to say we are going to stand in solidarity with one another to make all of our lives better together. And we don't need to live under a Cuomo, live under an Adams. We don't need to be in this city that we've been in before, and we can build something new. And the thing that I think is the best antidote to the Trump fascism that we're seeing right now is broad, diverse coalitions of people realizing that when we organize, we can gain power for ourselves and win. And that's why this campaign has sent so many people in our opposition spiraling out.
Right. Well, I did warn people that, that's just disgusting. And it's so great to see these people now freaking out because they lost, and their bigotry and their fear mongering and their Islamophobia and their anti-Palestine racism and occasional weird, like hot mic unintentional anti-Semitic trope dropping and their transphobia, none of it worked.